Hello and welcome once again to another marketing strategy session. Today we are going to talk about influencer marketing. You probably have heard of it. Hopefully you've heard of it. If you haven't heard of it, you're going to get an earful today. We have Isaiah. I love the name Isaiah. It's like idea, but Isaiah. And we have Ryan. He has came off the private jet to grace us with some knowledge on how to properly do influencer marketing. Ryan, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Jeff. It's great to be here.
Cool. So we chit-chatted a little bit before about influencer marketing, and with the rise of all the YouTube stars and Twitter, I don't even know what you call them nowadays, but everybody feels as if, oh, I can be an influencer, I'll be a brand ambassador, I'll get out here and make millions of dollars just because I have millions of followers. And I know I sit beside a wife that shows me pictures of, look at this guy and his mansion and yacht. He's making millions on YouTube. And I'm thinking, yeah, I've read that YouTube contract. I don't think he's making it from YouTube.
Well, but it's amazing what you can put into a tiny video or a tiny photo to suggest a lifestyle that you may aspire to, but not actually have. But like you said, it's a really interesting time right now. We refer to it at IZEA as the broader creator economy, right? Meaning that there's an entire ecosystem now of individuals who have built a very loyal following on all sorts of platforms, right? And of course, you immediately jump to perhaps the YouTubes and the Snapchats of the world, the Twitches of the world, but blogging is still very much alive and well. And a lesson learned, I think, over the last decade plus for us here has been that really what's happening is that folks who are successful at building an online brand and gathering influence as a result of the content that they're creating, they're doing that across multiple platforms. They're very smart marketers in that they may have an anchor in a YouTube channel or a blog, but then they use higher frequency tactics and publishing approaches on platforms whose timelines may decay a little bit faster, vis-a-vis Twitter, vis-a-vis Facebook. It just depends on the circumstance.
Oh, so it's actually more of a ecosystem strategy versus one platform. Like I guess you would say earlier in the decade, it used to be just one platform, focus on that, and don't do anything else.
Yeah, I mean, when we got started, it was it was in the heyday of MySpace and LiveJournal. And you remember LiveJournal, Jeff? That's where you put all those deepest, darkest secrets, all your emo band quotes, all your favorite little slogans and things. And those were the early dark days of what we now know as influencer marketing. And the reason why people were on one platform then is that there weren't a lot of platforms. Today,
yeah.
when you look at the broader industry, it affords creators a lot more opportunity to express themselves. And for an organization like ours, where that translates is that brands are interested in working with those individuals, but doing it in a way that is, of course, authentic to that individual's voice and native to the platforms where they've created these very valuable pockets of influence.
Okay, let's go through some of these myths then. I mean, you said brands now are interested, which they are. Brands have seen the power of influence that a person can have, but we'll go through the myth round. The first myth, of course, is you have to have X amount of followers, like 100,000, 1 million followers in order to be an influencer in a certain space. Is that a true or a false?
That is a false. I mean, look, we all aspire to be Tom Brady or Beyonce or, a really famous web celebrity like Dan TDM, who has tens of millions, hundreds of millions of followers. And I think that's where the general populace's mind jumps to when you say, oh, I'm going to be an internet celebrity millionaire. But that is such a small fragment of the overall ecosystem. More commonly, what you'll find are individuals that are more like your next door neighbor. You may have a neighbor who is gifted at do-it-yourself stuff, and he or she has created a YouTube channel, and then they post some of the highlights on their Instagram page, and they create a brand for themselves. And then there's the tier beneath that. There's a huge trend here in 2018 is the rise of the micro influencer. And this is something very unique to influencer marketing that not many think about, which is that when you stop and consider influence, influence actually is not geometric to simply audience size. The reason why there are roots in the sort of the assumption that influencer marketing is related to audience size is that those big endorsement deals that an athlete or a screen celebrity may receive, those are being done in the same premise as traditional endorsement deals. And that was very much built on audience size. With technology, there is the opportunity for brands now to be able to work with, say, hundreds or thousands of these micro influencers, real everyday people who are passionate about a brand and telling their own stories on all kinds of platforms. And the technology can not only identify who those folks may be, but it actually can provide an entire workflow to make sure that brands have safety, that FTC guidelines are followed, for example, and even simple things like compensation being done all in one fell swoop. And that allows a whole different echelon of people to really be exposed to this ecosystem. And by the way, those campaigns may be more cost effective and actually results oriented than just that shiny coin screen celebrity who you might pay $2 million for.
Oh, wow. Okay. So they're looking at more of having more people praise their brand in a way that is, I guess you would say, more personal.
Sure.
Than having somebody that has just a lot of people that are following them just because they're the new trend. And, they may mention it, but they mention a lot of things because, of course, everybody's endorsing them. So they wear Nike, but also drink Coca-Cola, but also wear, this, but also drive that. So, I noticed that, like in the beauty industry, there is Essence Harris. I'll give her a shout out. She is up and coming. And so she does these makeup tips. And, she's college girl, but she has a college following. So if you're a makeup line that's looking for that millennial following, she has that following already. And though it may not be hundreds of thousands of people, they watch consistently. So
that's right. And the amazing thing about that, Jeff, is for a creator like her, it's not just the fact that she is endorsing, say, a specific line of product that she likes or one that approached her that she tried and genuinely felt comfortable endorsing and creating content around. That is valuable. And having people watch that video, for example, provides tremendous opportunity. But savvy brands now are also realizing two other benefits. The first one is the comment stream. We often call that the social engagement that comes off of that original post. And if it's a platform like YouTube, YouTube is one of the top 3 search engines out there. People don't think of it that way, but it's just beneath Google's primary search and Bing, right? Though that it's the big 3, and they're one of it. And to that extent, that video becomes very quickly indexed. So we often think about searchability now for brands and the SEO side of that equation being solely written word or visual, but increasingly video search is equally as important and can tell a deeper story, again, in that authentic voice of an influencer.
It makes sense. Makes sense. So as an influencer, how would you recommend approaching a brand? Would you approach and say, hey, look at my engagements? Or would you say, here's an example? I mean, I know with novice, you're overwhelmed because you're looking at your numbers, you're watching these other people's tutorials and videos, and what they say worked for them, which could be true or not. But what will be the best way,
Well, unfortunately,
or one of the
even with the largest corporations, they're simply not equipped to handle a lot of inbound inquiries from anyone, right? So instead, what has happened
mm-hmm.
is that it's really the rise of marketplaces. IZEA is one of those. So as a creator, you can go to
Mm-hmm.
IZEA.com. It costs nothing, takes about 2 minutes, and you create an entire profile about yourself. You attach your different social channels. You can even specify different topics of passion that you have, brands you like. And what that allows the marketers to do is to go in and do very either simple or very complex searches to help find people like yourself. Because moreover, what they
Okay.
really want to have happen is they do want to compensate great creators and get them involved in spreading the word.
Mm-hmm.
The way that they want to do that, though, is by having technologies do some of that heavy lifting, because ultimately trying to field emails and phone calls and hard cut checks with hundreds of creators times how many campaigns per year, that's like chasing stray cats and dogs around an empty warehouse. It's just a nightmare.
Yeah. And Isaiah made it easy. I put on the app, and I actually get notifications. It's like, hey, here is some brands that are a good match for you. And I'm sure on their side they get the same type of notifications. And I thought that was really valuable because at first it pinged me. I was looking like, wow, what? Wait a minute, hold on, this brand here. And so when I dug into it, it gave you a little bit of outline about the brand and what they're looking for and some of the things that is important to them. And I thought that was really good because now I'm not blindly just going by, well, I would assume this brand may be interested in what I have to offer. And they're not, or brands I wouldn't even consider. There was one brand that was a learning tool or something, and I wouldn't even consider going after a learning tool as a being a brand ambassador for that. So, that marketplace does add a lot of value in filtering through, researching the time, So, yeah, I agree with you on that.
I mean, I think we all have, if you asked what are some of the biggest brands that people would want to support, it's easy to rattle off, Apple or Starbucks or Amazon. Those are just, giant brands. But to your point, there are tens of thousands of large businesses. I mean, heck, even take the Fortune 1000 corporations and then all the brands those corporations have. It's truly remarkable, and everyone's trying to find their way to make a broader dent in the greater social sphere. And you're starting to see now that there is more empirical research around influencer marketing, that the word is coming back from marketers themselves that it is one of the most effective mediums that they invest in. And the reason for that is you kind of go back to marketing 101, your first day in business school, and you're sitting there and your professor says at the front of the room, all right, kids, here's what you need to know about marketing. It's about paid, owned, and earned. And for generations now, large corporations have built very siloed businesses that focus on each of those three pillars. Well, all of those pillars in the last several years in particular have been completely blurred. The paid, owned, and earned can actually now be an integrated mindset and an opportunity to bring all sorts of new tactics to the table. When you consider something like influencer marketing, it is all three of those things. You're compensating passionate creators. The brands have a license to use that content, so they own that content. And they're going to earn all kinds of incremental exposure and engagement that they otherwise wouldn't have had if they were just trying to put messages out in the social sphere in their own voice.
Yeah, and that makes a lot of sense. Now, with that, the paid on and earned, is it like some safeguards
Hmm.
uh, regarding who you interact with? I mean, I've heard some myths. I'll say myths. I don't know, but that people are paying influencers per thousand. Or they're paying per thousand, but they're being, I guess you would say, duped because people are buying traffic or they're buying engagements, and it's not really getting in front of the audience they thought it was. So they're paying it. They think that they're earning it. They are owning it, but um, is there any like best practices around that, safeguards around that?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the first thing that people should know, both on the marketer and the creator side, is that cost per post is still
Mm-hmm.
the unit economic that the broader industry uses. If someone is talking to you about a CPM model,
Mm-hmm.
to your point, I would say buyer beware. Not all CPMs are made the same. And it's a broader platform concern right now, Jeff. You
Mm-hmm.
can ask anyone who works at Facebook or Instagram or YouTube. Unfortunately, because you can buy followers, you can buy clicks, you can buy whatever, pretty much whatever you would have that involves fingers or eyeballs in a digital world, you can buy.
Mm-hmm.
And the platforms themselves are still struggling and haven't even chipped away very deep at how to reconcile that problem. So, companies like IZEA, what we'll try to do if a marketer's KPI is clicks, is that we're still going to sell that program on a cost per post basis, but then we're going to use best in class click filtration tools on the other side to try to weed out those bad actors. But that is a very real problem
Okay.
in today's influencer economy.
Okay. So with the cost per post, are they basing that on, okay, I'll pay you X amount for you to post this post, and what parameters around that, their expectation? So are they saying, is it a CPC model to where, okay, you post it, I'm paying you for that, and I'm expecting X amount of clicks? Or is it just, I'll just pay you for the post and we'll just roll the dice and see where it comes from there?
Yeah, the most common application of performance-based aspects of influencer marketing today tend to be ties into affiliate programs. But it really depends on the type of
Okay.
creator that you're looking to hire. Most creators who are doing this as their
Okay.
profession understand that last click attribution is really a challenge as it relates to affiliate marketing for them, in that someone may have very
Yeah.
well seen a certain kind of paintbrush, let's just say, in a great DIY video. But if that last click isn't their site and they go away and come back an hour later and they lose that attribution, they lose their
Yeah.
livelihood. So yeah,
Yeah.
that is very much problematic, and you're starting to see the platforms, and I think you'll see it from folks like IZEA in time as well, where you can incorporate the best of both worlds of how do you get affiliate marketing into a post more proactively, and it sticks with that post over time, as opposed to just a last click attribution model. Um,
Okay.
the other side of the coin is if you go straight up cost per post, which 98% of the influencer economy is built on right now, having a platform that can help predict success based upon the types of creators, the types of platforms, the goals the marketer has in mind, really becomes imperative. We sit on a mound of 12 years of data, over 3.5 million of these transactions in that time. So what you're able to then deduce from that is, oh, if I hire Jeff and Ryan and other folks like them to support this campaign for Bose Bluetooth headphones, I would
Mm-hmm.
predict that this is the type of engagement that you'd see. I predict that this is the type of click-through traffic that you'd see. But those are things that are more directional, not performance in the traditional sense, as you and I would buy, say, a traditional banner ad or search. But I think those
Okay.
things are going to feel similar in time too. When it was back in the old banner network days, they didn't sell any of the performance metrics they had either. It took decades of technology and consolidation for it to come there. And I think we're still very much in early innings in the influencer economy.
Yeah, yeah. It is very early on. I mean, when did it start? About 2000,
We
2002,
were
something like.
2006, and
Okay.
the company was born out of actually a client challenge. My boss and the founder, Ted Murphy, ran a successful digital ad agency prior to IZEA, and one of his clients was looking to piece together a bunch of folks on MySpace to post
Mhm.
on their walls. And what he realized in trying to get together a pack of these folks is that it was really a pain in the butt to try to figure out how do you get a hold of them, how do you control what they're saying so that it's at least not brand inappropriate. How do you
Yeah.
compensate them? How do you get them that money? All those things that were very manual. He had the eureka moment. Well, what if technology aided in solving for that problem? And that is
Yeah.
what led to the birth of IZEA.
Wow, wow. And it really helps navigate through all of those challenges. Now, is it myth number two? I think it's myth number two. You have to have a professional crew, camera crew, graphic designer. It has to be like HD quality in order to be an influencer for a brand. Is that a true or false myth?
That is a in between true and false, and I'll give you the caveat and the context as to why. Some brands want that layer of polish that looks like it's almost been in post production, and multi-camera shots, 4K, that whole look. An example of that would be if you look at the work that Mercedes-Benz does in influencer marketing that we help them with. They tend to choose
Mhm.
creators who have a certain aesthetic, and that aesthetic is
Uh-huh.
that it is very well produced, and it looks, from a production quality standpoint, not too dissimilar from the 30-second ads that they use on TV. It really has a great, clean,
Okay.
polished look, and that's what works for their brand. But what I would tell you is that equal to more often, you'll see brands that say, it's actually more accurate for my brand to be represented by people who maybe are shooting things on a GoPro or on their iPhones, or they have a DSLR where they're doing stuff in front of a camera, and it's not like a crew of 5 people following you around all day long. And I'm here to tell you that those people make just as much, if not more money than the folks that have the incredible production values.
Okay. Yeah, because it seems more authentic, I guess. It's like these people are really people versus the other that looks like it's a commercial. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
you of course endorsing it. It looks like they pay for your commercial, So
That's right. And it's really about the right creators for the right brand. So we never say never as it results to, or as it relates to rather, the aesthetic that someone chooses, because there is
okay.
that variety out there, but it is by no
Okay.
means necessary.
Cool. Well, I've now got my camera. I'm gonna start doing my thing.
There you go. Fantastic. I love it.
So cool. And with that, as you're putting out content, I was listening to a guy that I follow, Roberto Blake. He does an excellent job in his marketing efforts, and he was talking about how he's so proud that he has over 1,000 videos out now, 1,000+ videos out now. Is it important to have a huge collection
Hmm.
or more of a real focus collection? I mean, his is focus. He's been doing it for a long time, but when you're starting out and you have 5, 10 videos, it's hard to compete with a Gary V or Roberto Blake that has thousands of videos out.
Yeah, I mean, that long tail effect, folks that have been doing it for years, no beginner is going to be able to compete with out of the gate. But what I would say is that it is important to at least create at a fairly regular interval where people know to predict it. and
Okay.
especially depending on what platforms you choose to create on. In the early days when we first started doing sponsored tweets, circa 2008, 2009, Twitter influencers were very, very popular with marketers at that period. But you know about tweets; they decayed on a timeline so fast. To be an
Yeah.
influencer, you pretty much had to be on your timeline all day, every day, and incorporating sponsored posts that you were originating as part of that dialogue. Longer form
Yeah.
platforms, bloggers, certainly video on YouTube and Vimeo and others really allows for you to have a little bit more of a predictable cadence where certainly your followers will receive an alert when you publish, but it isn't so much that it goes away instantaneously either. So if you were just getting started out, I think the hardest thing for people is they get really excited to start out and they'll create, say 3 or 5 posts and they realize, man, I don't have a lot much more to talk about. or so,
Yeah.
they just run out of material very quickly because of the excitement that comes with getting started. So that goes
Yeah.
hand in hand with you have to have an editorial strategy as well and think about what do I want to represent? What do I have to share with others? What do I think people will find meaningful? And if you
Okay.
have a certain series of topics, use those topics. By no means do I consider myself an influencer, although I work for an influencer marketing company. But I know that my topics on, say, my Instagram feed are about some of my 3 favorite things being watches, technology, and scotch, and
Ah.
sometimes craft beer, and sprinkled in with my wife and my kids. And I stick to that, and people know to expect that from me. I post, what timepiece I'm wearing on my wrist sometimes. So because I know there's a
Ah.
whole community of people who like to talk about that stuff, and it's been neat to meet folks over the years in doing that. So that's just a small example of, I make a point that every other day there's something new, whether it's a boomerang or it's a photo on Instagram, because that's a platform that I want to engage with people on.
Oh, cool. Well, we have to definitely do that. I am a timepiece
Excellent.
really connoisseur myself.
Fantastic.
Yeah, that's one of the small things I can keep for myself. I love watches, so I'm gonna definitely troll on your timeline and look and see what pieces you have. And
Please do.
yeah, I like them.
Yeah, it's one of
So
the
look for my
things that
comments.
as
I'll be
guys,
commenting.
not wearing a lot of jewelry, that we get to, have on us that shows off a little bit of our personality, and particularly as it relates to mechanical pieces. And I'm sure you can relate to this. I like the fact that they are, miniature
Yes.
pieces of art, right? And that they are, in many cases, made by hand and painstakingly so. And if you take care of them, they're designed to outlive multiple owners, and that's pretty neat.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I love about them. They do express yourself, and the details. It's really I really enjoy looking at timepieces, and some of them. I remember I went overseas. I went to I forgot where, and they were telling me how the one guy works on this watch for months, like each piece, and it's hand built and this and that. And I was like, that's amazing. I couldn't imagine working on one watch for months,
Yeah.
until it's built. And I said, wow. Plus, the price tag was, I think it was like $5,000, $6,000 for that watch, but they said it's because this one guy works on it. And I was like, I hope he gets paid a majority of that, which I know he doesn't. So,
It is remarkable to watch it be done. And, I have these fat Mickey Mouse fingers, kind of. So I can't even imagine having
yeah,
parts being so small where you have to be able to get in there and not have it just, fall away from you. But I do that with a lot of envy.
exactly. Oh, wow, exactly. So, wrapping it up, one of the things that I'm gathering from this is if you are an influencer, you need to focus more on your content, your engagement, and value over the amount of followers you have. And you need to look at marrying yourself, and using that word loosely for all you married people that know, marrying yourself with a brand that actually fits. And one of the best ways to do that is to use marketplaces like Isaiah in order to wean through versus email blasting a bunch of brands saying, look at my channel, or look at my profile. So that's what I'm gathering from the influencer side. Am I correct on that?
You're spot on. I mean, said simply, brands today want to be a part of the content, not the clutter. And as consumers, we have a great barometer for BS. And you see it happen sometimes, and we refer to them as influencer flameouts, where an influencer clearly is being paid to support a brand that they don't believe in.
Mm-hmm.
Or just very plainly is not a relevant fit for what you know about that individual.
Yeah.
And it's a real shame because you may have gotten a couple $1,000 or whatnot for that photo or for that post, but what's the value of the audience that entrusted themselves to you and thought that you were the genuine article when in fact you were only a paid shill?
So Ryan, I can't do any makeup endorsements, huh? I just can't say, well, this eyeshadow works for me.
Look, you can endorse.
So I'll leave that to Essence.
Authentic review, and that happens all day, every day. On a compensated basis, what I would tell you not to do is, don't go and take an opportunity from one of those, shady diet shake companies and, say that, made you lose 50 pounds and you feel better than you ever felt before if you don't really feel that way about it. And more importantly, many of those companies ask those creators to not disclose that sponsorship, which is against the FTC guidelines. So, be smart, know your audience, and be true to them.
That's a very good point. I'm glad you brought that up, because a lot of times we do not recognize the difference between a sponsored post and non-sponsored, because you are supposed to disclose that this is a sponsored post versus this is the greatest thing in the world and so forth and so on. And then they find out later on you were paid to say that. So that's something that, some do and some don't, but it's a very important fact that it is the FTC regulation that if it is a sponsored post, you have to disclose that to the audience. So
that's right. If there's
and
compensation,
as a brand,
very clear with them on what compensation means. It can be anything from simple as cash to a free trip, free tickets, all the way down to a coupon that nobody else would have gotten had they not done that particular post. So people often, they sent me a free coat. That was just me trying it on, and I had to keep it. Well, that coat that you kept is compensation, and therefore, if there's compensation involved, disclosure goes along with it. Transparency is not only a good thing for the broader creator economy, it's the law.
Okay. Now, when they do state that it's a sponsored event, do they have to be very cut and dry or imply? You know how sometimes you might say, go ahead. I'll let you answer.
No. The way the FTC has phrased it, it needs to be clear and obvious to the consumer that the post is sponsored. So frequently what you'll see, depending on the platform, is different ways of handling that. For example, on a blog post, you'll see before the content that it'll say, this post brought to you by the North Face. All opinions are 100% mine. And that is a 110% appropriate way of providing disclosure. On a thing like Instagram, what you'll see now are actually two areas. Instagram very generously has added a sponsored by field inside of the platform. So you can now indicate what brand is sponsoring your post, if indeed they are. And then you'll often also see accompanying it, because those posts can then be shared elsewhere where that tag may not follow it. In the actual caption copy, you'll see something to the effect of sponsored by the North Face. Oh my gosh, it's freezing outside Detroit today.
Okay.
So glad I have my North Face parka, that kind of stuff, with a picture of me and my big furry hood.
Okay. Okay. So you don't actually have to put it like in the description and be sponsored by blah, blah, blah. It has sections depending on the platform that you use that you can identify that it's a sponsored post. So
That's right.
good to know. Great to know. So, and then for the brands, what the takeaway from that is don't get so caught up in the amount of followers, more look at the amount of engagement and how they're engaging to determine who's a good fit for, evangelizing your brand.
That's
Is that
right.
correct?
Follower fallacy is probably one of the biggest misnomers that marketers have. And it doesn't mean that web celebrities and actual celebrities and athletes aren't good creators to have involved in a campaign. What you don't want to have is a situation where they are the only creators involved in your campaign, and that you've paid someone, say, something that involves 2 commas, and you wonder why you haven't, delivered on a specific kind of KPI. You want to find a partner, be it Isaiah or anyone else, that can sit down with you and actually devise a strategy. That strategy should be backed in quantifiable historical performance and why you're suggesting that type of creator. And then just as important, I think for marketers is to be open-minded. There are so many advancing fresh faces in this influence economy that can come up within weeks or months of being very much impactful for a campaign. Just because you may have not heard of them yet doesn't mean that their followers don't know them, and they can be a really valuable contribution to your campaign's success.
Okay, great. Well, Ryan, thanks so much for all the insight, and for all of you brands looking for ambassadors and ambassadors looking for brands. Isaiah is a great place to start. I'm enjoying it. Like I said, I'm newly getting on to the platform, but I am enjoying it. It has sent me some great information, and looking forward to get my first brand. I mean, I haven't got anybody yet, but I just signed up. So, expectations can't be too unrealistic. Wait a minute, this is not an endorsed statement. This is
right.
actually very authentic. We are just having a very authentic interview. I had to put that out there.
Important to disclose.
So,
Important to disclose.
But yeah, yes. So everybody doesn't, just because we have the logo, doesn't think, oh well, he's being paid to say this. No, actually, I am enjoying it. I'm getting very new in the influencer space. I've been doing these interviews for a while, but haven't really looked at it in an influencer marketing capacity, just more of an information distribution capacity. So I will be definitely leveraging Isaiah. I'll definitely be asking a bunch of questions, wanting to learn even more. And hopefully y'all can follow me on this journey, and y'all can benefit as well from the platform, because it is a great platform to use. So Ryan, I will let you go. I know you've been going back and forth, all over the world, taking care of business and evangelizing the message. I thank you so much for spending a little time with us and sharing this information and helping clearing up the myths.
Well, it was my pleasure, Jeff, and I'm happy to welcome everybody to my home office on a very rare day where I just spend an afternoon not on an airplane or in a boardroom.
Great. And we're going to look at some watches together, and also, we'll celebrate the win of the Eagles. We'll celebrate that win, being that they pulled it off. And like I said, I'll be keeping in touch. Hopefully I can bend the ear every now and again and just ask some questions. But, this influencer marketing is something that, thanks. It's influencer marketing, something that I now have some content I can refer them to. Next time I hear somebody say, well, this person is making millions Doing this. Okay, yeah. Let me refer you to a source that knows.
You certainly can do well, but I think sometimes people love to put up a great facade.
Yes. Great. Well, enjoy your day, everybody. Once again, please like, share, comment. We want your feedback. If you're interested, please visit Isaiah. Sign up. It's free. And see how you can get started and let them marry the brand and the ambassador without all the headaches of trying to do it yourself. So this is the marketing strategy session, and I'm signing off. Okay.